Deckers owned not just U.S. registered airplanes, but a U.S. chartered airline as well. Bob Mudge writes for the local Venice Gondolier.
He was involved in the startup of Flair, I think it was called, which was Florida Airline, simply. And I know he had a lot of problems with that. I think it was briefly in service.
And what I heard was just that he had a backer in Naples that was backing him financially. That the money that he had, that he, in a sense, flaunted, was not even his money. He was just the front man.
There aren't many people behind on their rent who have the luxury to think about new airlines now, are there? Deckers had a partner in Washington State. His name was Richard Boehlke. He owned Harbor Air, called the Navy's airline because it serviced the big Whidbey Naval Air Station in Oak Harbor, Washington. Portland reporter Eric Mason was intrigued by the Boehlke-Deckers connection too.
Richard Boehlke started in the business of creating freestanding retirement homes, and he at one point had the largest company, the largest holding of these freestanding retirement homes in the country. Richard Boehlke's former employees always wondered what the aviation business was really doing. The finances flowed from the real estate holdings and the retirement home into this aviation company, and that there was really no way this aviation company was really making money. He had received financing from capital consultants. And capital consultants, the folks that are the head of the financial officers of capital consultants, have now been indicted on a number of charges, including fraud.
Another grateful recipient of millions of dollars of the pension fund money was Alvin Malnik, whom Reader's Digest once called Meyer Lansky's heir as head of organized crime. And as global networks go, they don't get much bigger than that. But it's not Malnik's gangster ties that make your jaw drop. It's his connection with the Saudi royal family. A Jewish gangster, Alvin Malnik's son, is married to the daughter of Prince Turki, a leading prince of the Saudi Arabia kingdom's founding family. Malnik also owns what law enforcement sources call the biggest mob hangout south of New Jersey, the Forge, which attracts what one investigator called men with big cigars and women with tiny resumes. In front of the Senate Banking Committee hearings about the terrorist money trail in the aftermath of the September 11th disaster, Assistant Attorney General Michael Chertoff said, "Frankly, we can't differentiate between terrorism and organized crime and drug dealing. But there's yet another global network which often works together with the mob, which has its fingerprints all over the Rudy Deckers story."
After the fall of the CIA in the 70s, and with the near disastrous Iran-Contra and MENA exposures, the intelligence community had to realize that its facilitation of the drug trade, if revealed to the public, could prove fatal to any and all future endeavors. So, if you're the CIA, you might get a little smarter about it. With MENA, the CIA had no cover story, no backup plan. Instead, the entire operation was nearly outed, and the whole global drug trade almost became public knowledge. You have to move the MENA operation. Well, where do you move it to? Someplace even more out of the way than MENA. And what's more out of the way than flight school?
When people operate suspiciously at airports around here, people start acting suspicious. I mean, law enforcement hovers around most airports in the southeast United States to some extent, and they were told to stay away from that operation.
Who was told?
The Sarasota County drug interdiction people were told that they had a green light to operate and that they were to stay away from it. Alluded to the fact that they may have some type of government protection. It's a published known fact that some people fairly high up in the CIA have started developments around here.
The parcels of land surrounding the Venice airport tell their own story of covert associations. This stately colonial building, just a block from the Venice airport, was built to house the national headquarters of a huge nursing care company, started by a man whose name is synonymous with American covert operations during the past several decades, Jackson Stevens. Jackson Stevens' name surfaced in the BCCI scandal, in the MENA drug scandal, in the Promise software scandal, in the Vince Foster scandal. This stately mansion, which still houses Jackson Stevens' law firm, is the house that Jack built. And right across the street is Richard Boehlke's Altera assisted living facility. And just around the corner is Huffman Aviation.
and there is overwhelming evidence that Rudy Deckers works for the CIA. On July 5th, 2000, the DEA discovered over 30 pounds of heroin on a plane owned by Wally Hilliard. And who is he? He is the owner of Huffman Aviation. The same Huffman Aviation which in the 1990s induced hundreds of Arab students to come and train at their school by issuing these highly coveted visas.
Rudy Deckers provides regular maintenance to an airline based at Charlie County Airport, Carib Air, owned by Dietrich Reinhardt, a notorious Iran-Contra operative, CIA proprietary air carrier with a particularly blemished past, including blemishes like having its aircraft seized at the infamous Mena, Arkansas airport, and being accused by government prosecutors of having used its planes to ship drugs worth billions of dollars into this country.
Sir, the Republicans are trying to blame you for the existence of a small air base at Mena, Arkansas. This base was set up by George Bush and Oliver North and the CIA to help the Iran-Contras, and they brought in plane load after plane load of cocaine there for sale in the United States. And then they took the money and bought weapons and took them back to the Contras, all of which was illegal, as you know, under the Boehlke Act. But tell me, did they tell you that this had to be in existence because of national security?
Well, let me answer the question. No, they didn't tell me anything about it. They didn't say anything to me about it.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
In 2014, online editor for the Weekly Standard, Daniel Halper, authored a biography book on the Clinton family titled Clinton Inc., The Audacious Rebuilding of a Political Machine, where he reveals that Israel tapped White House phones and Benjamin Netanyahu attempted to use tapes of Clinton's steamy conversations with Monica Lewinsky as blackmail prior to the sex scandal as leverage for the release of infamous spy Jonathan Pollard.
This is the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, famous as a safe harbor for pirates of the air. This company, for example, used to work out of the infamous Mena, Arkansas airport, known as a haven for aviation intrigue during the 1980s. As it happens, our old friend Barry Seal's pals have their fingerprints all over operations in and around Venice, Florida.
It's a ploy.
What?
This drug money funds terror. It's a ploy.
Ploy.
A manipulation.
Ploy.
Drug money funds terror. I mean, why should I believe that?
Because it's a fact.
A fact.
F-A-C-T, fact.
So you're saying that I should believe it because it's true. That's your argument.
It is true.
Oh, the irony. So what was Iran-Contra? Who was Barry Seal? What happened in Mena, Arkansas?
There are a lot of strange conspiracies about many things, but that is not a reason to reject conspiracies categorically. For example, the Iran-Contra affair was a massive government conspiracy hidden from the press and public for years. It happened in my lifetime, and it involved billions of dollars in multiple countries. This was a case where one part of the government didn't even know what another part of the government was doing. Thousands of people were murdered. Multiple countries in Central America, as well as Iran and Israel, were involved. The continuity of government, with a compartment within the CIA, was acting on its own with other intelligence agencies for selective business interests.